Welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks. In my last video, I shared with you guys two different strategies for doing stock analysis. So the first one was fundamental analysis, and that's when you're kind of looking at the stock from like a very holistic perspective. So you're not necessarily just looking at the price. You might also be looking at like how much debt the company has. You might be looking into their CEO and their leadership team, their offerings and their products and things like that. And that's what a lot of like long-term investors will use because they want to kind of gauge the health of the company, not just right now, but over the long term. And then I also talked about technical analysis, and that one a lot of more like short-term investors tend to use because with technical analysis, you're kind of looking at the stock price, you're looking at the ups and downs and like the variations in price. You're trying to kind of predict the different patterns or learn the different patterns so that way you can understand like what's going to be a good pick. So I shared those in my last video, and I also shared with you guys that I am currently reading this book called The Money School, and it's pretty much just going through kind of like basic things that we should know about investing and money that we really didn't learn in school. And so the thing with investing, the reason why it can be so intimidating sometimes is just because you don't know what you don't know. And when you're putting your money out there, you don't want to just be like playing or like gambling with your money. You definitely want to make like educated decisions so that way you have a higher chance of being successful at making your money grow. Now, because a lot of these things were not shared in school, a lot of people really don't know. So, like for instance, when you look up a stock online, you might see all of these different terms that you really don't know what you're kind of looking at. And that alone can definitely be like intimidating. So I wanted to kind of just do like a basic breakdown of some of the most common terms that you'll see when you look up a stock online. And I did grab just like a screenshot of Amazon so that way we can kind of see like what it would look like when you pull that up. So, a common thing that you'll see is symbol, and that's pretty simple. That just means that it's like the ticker name that is used to reference the company. So, you'll have Amazon, and then they'll have this abbreviated term, and that's their ticker symbol to pretty much say, hey, this is the company that I want to invest in. And mind you, I am not a financial advisor, so I'm not telling you to invest in them specifically. I'm just using them as an example. But yeah, so a symbol is really just like their ticker name. And then also price, of course, very self-explanatory. It's just going to be the current price that they're offering their shares at. And then also you have open. So every day the stock market opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard. And so the open is really just what their stock price is at that time. And then for their high, that's just meaning like what is the highest price that their stock reached throughout that day? And then same for the low, it's going to be the opposite. What is the lowest price that their stock reached that day? And with a 52-week high, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just looking at that from an actual year standpoint. So from the past year, what is the highest price that this stock has reached? And then same thing with 52-week low, what is the lowest price that this stock has reached throughout the past year? Now, a lot of investors will look at the 52-week high and low, and then they'll also compare that against the current price. And that's how they'll kind of start getting into analyzing whether it's a good buy or not. Because if it is, let's say the current price is pretty close to what the 52-week high was, sometimes they'll gauge that as the stock is growing. They'll also use that to help them decide whether this is just like a fluke and it's just randomly high for some reason. Because I shared in my last video, like things in the world, like the global economy or just things on the news, like natural disasters, elections, things like that can definitely influence stocks and where the prices are going to be. So they're looking to see like, is this a stock that's actually growing? Is it something that's happening in the world or in the economy that's causing it to be up or down and it's just a fluke? Is it actually down? And is it kind of, going to be a bad buy? And then they also have to kind of gauge like, okay, if it's down, is it down because, again, it's a bad buy, or is it down because, hey, this stock is actually on sale and this might be something that I want to buy at a discount? And I think that's really where you kind of have to start analyzing these things and why you want to get more comfortable with these terms and really know what you're looking at. Because from an investing standpoint, you definitely do want to buy things low and then you want to sell high. And that's really how you kind of make a profit. Learning how to kind of like look at stock, learning how to analyze them, getting more comfortable with looking at it from that like fundamental standpoint so you know about the companies that you're investing in. It'll definitely help you when you do go to analyze, because let's say that the stock price is really low for some reason, but you've been studying this company, you know that it's a good buy, you know that in a year they're going to be, doing something transformative in their industry or something like that, then it could potentially be a good buy. Or if it's a stock and the price is just very, very high, but they might not really be growing, maybe it's just kind of stalling out. Like, you really want to start to learn. And that's kind of why they say like investing in individual stocks can be a lot riskier, because there's a lot more that you really have to understand. There's a lot more that you really have to be paying attention to. And that's really where people start to try to beat the market, right? Because on average, the stock market does have about a 7% annual rate of return on average. But, people who are trying to have that like higher risk, high reward type of situation, they're really trying to beat that rate of return. And so they're doing a lot of analyzing to kind of figure out what's going to be a good buy and what is going to be the next opportunity for them. And that can definitely be challenging. So you want to educate yourself for sure if that is your goal. If you want to do, individual stock picking, definitely get comfortable with these types of terms, get comfortable with the different strategies that they use. Investors will also use kind of like the VIX index as well, which is kind of known as like the fear index. And that can kind of help them gauge volatility as well. So, getting more comfortable with those types of strategies, learning how to analyze stocks will definitely help you if that is your goal. And again, that does kind of tend to be for more short-term investors who are looking for kind of like those quick gains or are looking to trade and things like that. Now, if you are a more like long-term investor, again, and I kind of shared it in my last video, you can definitely invest in different types of like funds. And these funds will usually try to like replicate the S&P 500, and they try to do some of this for you, like this heavy lifting. So there's tons of strategies. I think the most important thing is just knowing what your personal strategy is. That way, you know what you need to be looking for. Because even a long-term investor still needs to know how to like analyze different stocks. You need to kind of know what's going on as well. You just might not have to do it as much if you are investing in like a fund. So I wanted to kind of break those things down because, like I said, these are not terms that we necessarily just automatically learn or know. And a lot of times it's up to us to kind of go out and get that knowledge. So as I'm reading the book, I'll continue to share different nuggets or like little pieces of information that I feel would be valuable for you guys to know as well. But as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? Again, I'm your host, Joy Hicks. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.